Welcome to the Jack Colton Show. My guest tonight is a man whose past reads like the darkest pages of a true crime novel. Vincent Riretti, once the most efficient hitman on the East Coast, a ghost in the snow, a whisper before the kill, joins us to talk about one job in particular, one that changed everything. Vince, thank you for trusting me with this.
Thanks for having me, Jack. You ever carry something so long you stop noticing the weight until you try to speak it out loud? That's what this is. A weight I've been dragging for 20 years.
Let's talk about that weight. Where does it begin?
Upstate New York, January of 2004. Snowbanks taller than men. My boss Rico Bellini calls me in. I hadn't heard from him in weeks, and that alone was strange. He pours us drinks, lights a cigar, leans in real slow and says, "Vince, you remember Alonzo Marquez?"
That name still carries fear.
It should. Alonzo wasn't just a rival. He was Rico's reflection. Same age, same ruthlessness, just from across the river. But they used to have an understanding, territory, respect, until Alonzo started making moves behind closed doors. He said he was tipping off the DEA, maybe even laundering through the Russians. I made him a threat, an internal leak, and Rico didn't like leaks.
So he gave you the order?
He didn't have to. I know what he meant. He looked me in the eye and said, "Make it clean. Make it like he never existed."
That's a heavy ask. Erase a man like Marquez without a trace?
It was more than that. It was a challenge. Alonzo wasn't some fool you caught sleeping. He moved with discipline. Rotating cars, double phones, ex-military security. He was paranoid, but in the right way. The kind of paranoia that keeps you breathing in this business. If you wanted to get close to him, you had to become invisible. Or better yet, become someone he wanted close.
So you built a new identity.
Exactly. I spent 2 weeks fabricating everything. License, tax records, business cards. Vincent Esposito, consultant in property liquidation. Fancy words for someone who made messes disappear. Or so I told people. Then I rent a loft in the same building where Marquez's lieutenants played underground poker twice a week. That's where the real game began. You started with the crew. You always start with the edges. Never go for the king without touching the pawns. I bought drinks, let them win hands, told stories from downstate that made me sound connected but harmless. Eventually, someone mentioned me to Alonzo, said I was sharp, low profile, and, quote, moved like a guy who didn't fear much. That was enough to earn me an invite. To meet him? Not yet. First came the test. Alonzo sent one of his capos, a guy named Javi, to size me up. We had lunch. No questions, just stories. He watched how I talked, how I chewed, how I poured wine. I passed, barely. What was the next step? 3 nights later, I got a call. A voice I didn't recognize gave me a location and a time, no explanations. I showed up at a private lounge downtown. Alonzo was already there, seated at the back, surrounded by smoke and silence. He didn't stand, didn't smile, just looked at me for a solid 30 seconds before saying, "You don't blink much. That's rare."
Sounds like he liked what he saw.
Maybe. Or maybe he was just bored. We talked business, sort of theoretical stuff, disposal logistics, transport methods. He asked me what I'd do with a body if I had no shovel and no fire. I told him I'd make it vanish in plain sight. He laughed once, that cold, sharp laugh people fake when they want to show power. Then he said, "Let's see what you can do."
So he gave you a test.
A real one. A cleanup job, nothing fancy. One of his drivers had overdosed in a safe house. No wounds, but the place was filled with heroin, and the guy had IDs from 3 states. It had to be scrubbed. I handled it in 4 hours. Bleached everything, burned the clothes, moved the body to a crematorium I had a guy in.
Left the apartment looking like nobody had ever been born there, let alone died.
And that earned his trust.
That earned me the second meeting. This time it was just him and me, no guards. He poured bourbon, Cuban cigar in hand, and said, "You're good. Too good. That makes me nervous." I told him, "Nervous men live longer." He smiled. I think that was the first moment he saw me as an equal.
That's a dangerous kind of trust when a man like Marquez starts treating you like a peer.
It's a razor-thin line, Jack. Once you're in, they either give you a seat at the table or they feed you to the dogs. But I didn't want a seat. I wanted the king off the board. So I laid the groundwork. Casually mentioned I had a cabin upstate, quiet place, good for meetings no one needed to know about.
Let me guess, he took the bait?
Not right away. Guys like Alonzo don't trust cabins. Too many trees, too few witnesses. But I had a card up my sleeve. I told him the land around it had oil drilling permits. That caught his attention. Said we should take a drive that weekend, just the two of us. No phones, no eyes.
So the plan was in motion.
It had to be. I knew the moment we were alone I'd have one shot. No margin for error. I spent 2 days prepping the cabin, reinforced the doors, disconnected the power, blacked out the windows. I brought only what I needed: wire, gloves, tarp, bleach, a chainsaw with a brand new blade. Everything had its place. Everything had a purpose.
And when the day came,
He showed up in a black Range Rover. No guards, just him and a duffel bag. He was dressed like it was business as usual. He stepped inside, looked around, and said, "Feels like the kind of place a man could disappear in." I answered, "Exactly." "That's chilling." It was. Even the air felt heavier that day. We sat by the fireplace. I poured him a drink, pretended to check some maps. He stood by the window looking out at the endless white woods and said, "Funny, always thought I'd go out in a blaze of bullets, not in some postcard." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "What was your move?" I told him I needed help lifting some crates from the back, heavy samples from the oil survey. He followed me into the rear room. It was soundproofed, just bare walls and cold floor. When he stepped inside, I let the door close behind us. That's when I looped the wire around his neck. Did he fight? Like a lion. Thrashed, elbowed, even slammed me into the wall. But I'd anchored my stance. I didn't hesitate. I kept pulling until the room was dead quiet again.
then came the cleanup.
Yeah, that's the part they don't show you in movies. The smell, the twitching, the silence that hangs around long after the body's still. I wrapped him in plastic, stripped the room, burned the clothes I wore. The snow outside was falling thicker by then. Nature doing half my job for me. But I wasn't done. I had a plan for the body, one that would make sure he never floated back.
And what was that?
I'll tell you next. But first, let me say, I never expected what came after. Because someone else was there, Jack, and I didn't know it yet.
Wait, someone was watching?
I didn't realize it at the time. Everything seemed under control. I loaded the body into a thick contractor bag, duct taped it shut, and placed it into a large storage drum. Then I drove, 5 hours north to a frozen lake I'd scoped weeks earlier. No cell service, no cabins for miles, just a sheet of ice and trees that never told stories.
And that's where you disposed of the body.
Yeah, I had an auger, drilled a hole through the ice, almost 2 feet thick, slid the drum in, watched it vanish into the black. Then I poured kerosene over the hole and lit it. The flame cracked the surface, melted the edges. No trace, no shape, just scorched ice and silence.
So what went wrong?
2 things. First, when I got back to the cabin, one of the doors, the rear one, was ajar. And I know I locked it, double-checked before I left. Inside, everything looked the same, except for one thing. On the kitchen table sat a single, unlit cigar. Cuban, just like the ones Alonzo smoked.
That's unsettling.
Unsettling doesn't even scratch it. I stood there for 10 minutes, trying to convince myself I'd missed it, that maybe he brought it with him and left it there. But deep down, I knew better. Someone else had been inside, after the kill, after I'd gone.
Did you check the surroundings?
Of course. I searched the entire perimeter. No tracks, no broken windows, But then again, it had been snowing hard. Whoever it was, they knew what they were doing.
What did you do after that?
I left. Fast. Didn't even pack the tools. Just got in the car and drove straight to the city. My hands were shaking on the wheel the whole way. Back in Yonkers, I laid low. Told Rico the job was done, clean, no heat. He didn't ask questions. Just nodded and said, "You're a ghost now." And for a few days, I believed him.
But that feeling didn't last.
Not even close. The first night back, I woke up to find my front door unlocked. Second night, there was a scratch, just one, across my bathroom mirror. Third night, 2:14 a.m., my burner phone rang. No caller ID. I picked up. Nothing. Just a breath. Slow. Wet.
The same time every night?
Exactly. I started keeping a pistol under my pillow again. Slept with one eye open. But the worst came a week later. I got a package. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. The back of my head, standing in the cabin, wire in my hands, mid-kill.
Jesus, that's when I knew I'd been watched. Maybe from the trees, maybe from inside. I'd checked for cameras, Jack. I had. But someone saw it. Someone wanted me to know they saw.
You think it was one of Alonzo's people?
Maybe. Or maybe someone playing a longer game. This business, it's full of shadows. I just didn't know one of them was mine.
So you're being watched, and the people you trust, they're all criminals. What did you do?
I tried to disappear. I told Rico I needed space, maybe a breakdown in Miami. He didn't fight me on it, just said, "Don't get soft down there." But I didn't go to Miami. I went off grid. Got help from an old fixer I knew in Montreal. New ID, new papers, new name. You were running? Hell yeah, I was running. Not just from them, from the whole damn thing. But it followed me, Jack. Even up north, I'd get that call. Same number, same time, same breath. Once I found another Polaroid tucked under my motel room door. Me walking through the snow with a shovel.
But no one ever came for you.
Not yet. And that's the part that eats you alive. If someone wants you dead, they come. Fast, clean. But when they watch, when they wait, that's something else. That's psychological. That's power.
So what did you come to believe? Who was it?
I have two theories. First, Rico. Maybe he didn't trust me. Maybe this was his way of letting me know I was never really out. Second, there was someone else in that cabin, someone who wanted me to do what I did. Maybe they hated Alonzo. Maybe they just wanted to see if I'd go through with it. Like a test.
A test of what?
Of loyalty? Or maybe of conscience. I don't know. But I failed it either way.
You say you failed. Why?
Because even if the job was clean, the weight never left. I wasn't haunted by Alonzo. I was haunted by the silence. You kill enough people, and eventually it's not the screams you remember. It's the moments after. The cold, the stillness, the things that stare back at you from inside your own head.
You regret it?
Not the kill. That was business. But the process, the manipulation, the paranoia, the slow unraveling, yeah, that eats at you, like rust in your bones.
Did you ever try to go back?
Once. About 5 years after. I flew under a fake name back into the States, rented a car, drove to that lake. Snow was falling again, like it had been waiting for me. I walked out onto the ice, found the spot by instinct. The hole I'd burned through was gone, of course, covered by time. But I swear, I felt something under there. Not physically, just presence, like the water remembered.
That's poetic and unsettling.
Yeah. I stood there for an hour, didn't move. Then I heard it,
The crunch of snow behind me. Just once. I turned around. Nothing. But on my windshield, someone had written 3 words in the frost. I saw everything.
I saw everything. Whoever left that, they're still out there, aren't they?
Maybe. Or maybe that was the last warning. The full circle. Some people kill to survive. Some kill to send a message. And some just want you to live with what you've done.
So why now? Why come on this show after all these years?
Because I'm tired. Tired of silence. Tired of pretending I don't look over my shoulder in grocery stores. This story, it's all I have left. Maybe by speaking it, I leave something behind. A footprint in the snow, even if it melts.
What do you think happens next?
Nothing. Or everything. Maybe that breath on the phone calls back. Maybe I disappeared tomorrow. Or maybe, just maybe, someone out there hears this and knows I remember.
Vince, thank you. Not just for your honesty, but for the weight of it. You've given us more than a story. You've given us a glimpse into a darkness most never see. That's all I ever wanted.
Well, thank you, dear listeners and viewers, for staying with us tonight. Some stories don't come easy, and some truths hide in the silence between words. If this one made you feel something, even a chill, then maybe it was worth telling. This is the Jack Colton Show. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and take care out there.